was like, Dad, you want me to be a pilot? Son, you are far too stupid for that job.
So the couple come on, the husband, he sits down, he instantly falls asleep, starts snoring out loud. And the wife is looking over at him and loathing him with every fiber of her being. At one point, he did that thing where it looked like he was choking a bit in his sleep. He was like... I accidentally caught her eye. She gave me a look as if to say, shh. If he goes, he goes. He's got his tray table down. She's written, do not resuscitate. Whole flight, he snores out loud. By the time it gets to the landing, even the screaming baby was like, this guy's an asshole. But because his seat was ever so slightly inclined, the air hostess had to come over and put it into the upright position for landing, or else, as we all know, the plane would have burst into a ball of flames. In doing so, she accidentally wakes him up, and he was not best pleased. He snapped at her. He was like, oh my God, is it really worth leaning over and waking me up for the sake of 2 inches? And his wife went, not in my experience. There were high fives. The pilot had to do an announcement to the lady in row 33. You go, girl, you go. Everyone was loving it. Other than me, I was sat there thinking, this is the last time I ever sit behind my fucking parents on a plane.
Never had to worry about school. I mean, I did because I was in it. But my parents gave up. They gave up early. They knew, you know, they would literally beg me to be like, son, please, just try and get 50. It's a pass. Just get 50. I'm not bragging, and nor am I glorifying this, but this is an actual mark I got in grade 9 typing. Typing, all right? It was 1984. Don't judge me. There were no computers yet. It was actual typewriters. My final mark was 13%. Even my dad was like, son, you've hit a new low. Do you realize you get 25% just for signing your name correctly? What fucking name did you put? They gave up when I was a teenager, they did. I remember my only rule when I would leave the house was, I'm like, Dad, I'm going to the mall. Okay, son, don't die. That was it, that was their only rule. Don't die, we've already failed enough. We don't need the ultimate failure. Well, don't die while I'm alive. After I die as many times as you want. But while I'm here, don't die. Never had to worry about a career or a job. Well, a job, yes, and just not a profession. I remember my dad, when I was 16, my dad comes to me and goes, son, one day, you won't be in school anymore. And I was like, I'm gonna graduate? No, son. Focus, son, focus, come on. It's never going to happen, okay? When you're not in school, you're going to need to get a job. I was like, of course I'm gonna get a job. I'm not a freeloader. I go, if you know anybody hiring, let me know. He goes, well, the airport is hiring. Here's how dumb I was. My dad said the airport was hiring, and I was like, oh my God, my dad wants me to be a pilot. I was like, Dad, you want me to be a pilot? Oh my God, son, no, oh my God, no. Oh my God, oh my Lanta, no, oh my God. Son, you are far too stupid for that job. People's lives are at stake. I go, what the hell am I gonna do at the airport? My dad goes, baggage handler. What the hell is a baggage handler? My dad sells the shit out of it to me. What's a baggage handler? Son, let me tell you something, okay? These people are an integral part of millions of people's travel plans throughout the year. I was like, damn. Well, what does their job entail? Basically, baggage handler's job is You take the baggage and you put it on the plane. What do I do? You take the baggage and you put it on the plane. I put it on the plane. You put it on the plane. I put it. You put it. Like putt. Like putt. Like, don't be stupid, okay? That's putting.
Do you remember when brown kids get slapped at birthday parties? Every brown birthday party. And usually, it's the kid whose birthday it is, and we stand there, and we point at him, we laugh, we go, ah, Bijou got slapped on his birthday. And that's what makes us tough and resilient. And it's why we become cardiologists and win spelling bees, right? Slapping is important, it elevates your game. Have you ever seen an Indian kid win the spelling bee? Incredible. Ice water in the veins, Kobe. That kid's not gonna choke on camera. He's been slapped on camera. Of course he can spell Canadal.
Canadal.
Look at that face. Nothing. Nothing. He's 12 years old. Nothing. This kid just won $30,000 cash. Nothing. And people are like, oh, where does that come from? Look at his parents. Look at this kid's parents. Your son just won the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Look at his brother. Look at his brother. His brother's like, I'm fucked. I'm fucked. The bar is way too high. I should kill myself. I should kill myself. People are like, hey, where does Bobby Jindal come from? That's where Bobby Jindal comes from. That is an Indian sociopath. I know what happens when I talk about this stuff. People are always like, oh, you got tiger parents, your parents don't love you. I think our parents love us. I think we have great fathers. I just think our fathers didn't download all the great dad software. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a few apps they're missing. Like, birthdays aren't their thing. I mean, I feel like every immigrant father feels like if they brought you to the United States, happy birthday. You know what I mean? Like, Starbucks, Wi-Fi, freeways, happy birthday, no more birthdays, go be president. Like, that's their policy. One time I was in an interview and this lady was like, describe your earliest birthday memory. I was like, do I have to? So I'm 6, I'm turning 7, right? Like, my dad wakes me up super early in the morning. He's like, Hassan, get up. Get in the Camry. The immigrant car of choice. Get in the Camry. We're driving from Davis to Sacramento. There's one mall in the entire area at the time. Arden, right? We get to this intersection, and I look to my left, and it's the one place that every kid dreams about. Toys R Us. I was like, oh, shit. Dad saw the Toys R Us kids catalog cut out on my wall. He saw my vision board. He saw the blue BMX bike that I wanted. He's here to surprise me. Turn left. Turn left. Turn left. Then he turns right, and I'm like, Home Depot? No! We're walking through Home Depot. I'm like, Dad, why are we here? Do you know what day it is today? He's like, yeah, it's Saturday. I'm like, no, it's my birthday. Did you forget that it's my birthday? He's like, no, son, how could I forget that it's your birthday? That's why I brought you here, so you could pick out the door handle for the bathroom.
What kind of parents would send a chronic bedwetter to sleepaway camp? They must be monsters. No, they're not monsters. Here's the thing, okay. Like my dad, his dad beat the shit out of him every day. And then during the school year, he was sent away to Goyam, to boarding school, to boarding school. And then at boarding school, he got the shit kicked out of him every day, called a dirty Jew kike, because it was back when, like, America was great. And then in the, all right, that was pretty good. And then in the summertime, he went to camp and blossomed and was a star and was like everything he wanted to be. And so parents, they just think, you know, he just thought, no, camp is great. It will define her. It will be her joy, because that's what it was for me. you know? So I had to go to camp, and as a compromise, he would give me joke books because I loved jokes, and then also maybe I'd make friends that way. So I remember this summer I was 8 because I had just learned to read when I was 7. And someone in the audience when I was in Vermont was like, oh, I was 4. Fucking good for you, I was 7. I learned to read when I was 7. So I was 8, I was excited, I had books I was gonna read, and my dad has no boundaries. I don't know if he flipped through these at all or didn't, but it was Truly Tasteless Jokes, book 1 and 2. And I remember the first joke on the first page. It was like a paragraph long, but I can tell it to you in 2 seconds. It was, Little Red Riding Hood, blah, 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 and then the big bad wolf is like, I'm gonna eat you. And then Little Red Riding Hood's like, eat, 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 doesn't anybody fuck anymore? And I'm like, what does this mean? And then when I was 30, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's so inappropriate. But my dad, camp was where he thrived, and like, they're still his best friends to this day. His best friends are his friends from camp. And he's about to be 80, and they're having a reunion even. And he has a picture of all of them when they became counselors. And it's amazing, it's from 1953. And I said, Dad, you have to send me this. And he sent it to me with like a glossary of who everybody is and what they're doing now. And it's like, this is Phil Holman, he's a judge now. This is Arnie Goldstein, you know he owns Martin's House of Cloth. This is Danny Gold. Danny Gold once gave Punchy Kramer a BJ and we all watched. This is Cy Schwartz, he works at the Clam King. This is ba-ba-ba, he da-da-da. This is Morris Simon. This is Punchy Kramer. This is, blah-blah-blah. I'm like, Dad, open with it or close with it. He has no sense. So he went to camp all the way up until he became a counselor. And, we think of counselors like as grown-ups, but, they're 16-year-old kids. So for each camper, he had to fill out a form every week for each camper, and it would say, like, is he behaving? Is he sleeping? Did he brush his teeth? Did he go to the bathroom? And under that, it said L/H. And my dad didn't know what that meant, but he was too embarrassed to ask anybody, so he just used his logic, and he's like, okay, it comes after bathroom, so it must mean loose or hard. So for a summer, my dad had his campers come get him after they took shits so that he could go look at them and make a rough guesstimate if it was indeed loose or hard. I love that so much. It just means there's like a generation of old men in therapy who are like, well, I did have a camp counselor that was like obsessed with my shit. You were sexually abused. Oh, it meant letter home. But thank God he didn't ask. That would have been so embarrassing.